Is the Mindflayer a cosmic horror? Yes. But how does it function? Is it a god, an animal? Here I want to share my interpretation of the Mindflayer. This is just a theory, so don't take this as the absolute truth. Well, let's get to some basic anatomy of the Mindflayer. We first have to understand that the Mindflayer is not the Mind Hive, but that the Mind Hive exists outside of the Mindflayer's control. The Mind Hive cyclically connects all the creatures inside of it together. The Mindflayer is just the main guy. You could say it's the apex predator of this Mind Hive, allowing it to command the creatures inside of it. But they don't entirely lose their autonomy. They still feed, live and try to survive. They just have to take orders that they are given. Demogorgons and other creatures can even exist outside of the hive, like Dart, but even they will eventually join the hive once they get close to their peers. Before we go on, I would like to make a distinction between the Mind Hive and the Flayed. The Flayed from Season 3 are not part of this larger Hivemind. They are in a state of possession. These people are possessed and don't hold any power or autonomy in this situation. There is no easy way to understand the Mindflayer, as it's not a purely conscious being, like a human, but it's not a basic being, like the Demogorgon. For this theory, I'm going to say the VR game is canon, as it doesn't change much of the story, but it gives important background and character interaction that doesn't happen in the show. In this game, we actually see the interaction of Henry and the Mindflayer, and we see that the Mindflayer doesn't have its own personality. Instead, it uses a form of Brenner from Henry's mind, called Shadow Brenner. It even adapts his mannerisms and the way Brenner speaks, talks and acts.
Oh, just look at this place. It seems you've remodeled my office to make it your own.
You tried to absorb me. Now I will absorb you and take your power.
Oh, Henry, you could never consume us completely. We are multitudes.
I have already mastered this world.
Mastery requires control, but it is you who is controlled by fear. I've found the memory you've hidden. The memory you won't even show yourself.
He wanted to have this mental power over him, but because of how it communicates and not being able to just tell things on its own, it needed a different form to translate to Henry.
You insist on escaping. We are as vexed as we are impressed. Soon you will subsume us if we do not do so first. But you are far too interesting, and we've been so very patient. We've even probed your mind to find a guide and take his form.
This leads me to believe that the Mindflayer is not a conscious being in a way we understand human. It has wants, needs, intention, but it can't manifest them or do anything on their own. That's why it needed Henry. When it speaks to Henry, it's using his mind to translate its needs into Henry, so his mind would comprehend it. It slowly, and sometimes violently, tries to influence him.
Hello, Henry. It appears you've broken my office. Do you feel satisfaction? We will not resist you. But why resist us when you want so much? We are united in our desire to each devour the other. But only if you stop running, Henry.
Henry and the Mindflayer almost always talk about control, showing Henry traumatic memories, trying to weaken him and make him more influenceable. The Mindflayer talks of being in a symbiotic relationship, of becoming one and greater, whilst Henry is constantly trying to fight for his autonomy. But to actually understand the Mindflayer, we need to understand Henry. Now, you've probably watched the entirety of Stranger Things, and you might say that you have basic understanding of Henry. Well, I'm here to say that you're wrong. Most of the things we are told about the Mindflayer in the show is through Henry. He was the only one who actually connected and spoken to the Mindflayer. But I'm going to say something controversial. Henry is an unreliable narrator. Now, this isn't exactly heavily hinted in the show, but with the outside material, like the play, Stranger Things The Foreshadow, and to a point even the VR game, but I don't think Henry is doing any of this knowingly. Let me start from the beginning, of how the Mindflayer actually even got on Earth. We are not starting in a cave, but with a ship called the USS Eldridge. In the year 1943, the US military started conducting a new experiment. They were testing a new technology that could make ships go invisible. The ship was actually captained by Captain Brenner, who is Brenner's father. Anyways, as always, these experiments go south, the ships get transported into the abyss, they get attacked by Demogorgons, and only Captain Brenner survived. But he isn't the same as he was before. He has a new blood type and is stuck in a vegetative state. But we know that just because someone enters the abyss, their blood doesn't change automatically. But it's probably caused by the psychic linking of the Mindflayer with the human, which means that these powers are gifts and they do not rely on the Mindflayer to work. Now, I think most of us has similar version to this, and now that we are on the same page, we can go forward. Anyways, after this, Martin Brenner, or Papa, whatever you want to call him, decides to recreate the experiment again. But a doctor who is a spy for the Soviets decides to steal something. This weird glowy rock. As he starts his escape, he falls into a cave system and heavily injures himself, where an 8-year-old boy finds him, and in an act of self-defense, this kid knocks him out. This kid finds in his possession a weird rock that changes his life forever. He suddenly sees flashes, hears voices, not of this world, not of his mind. As the doctor wakes up and warns Henry of what he has done, Henry, not of his will, uses his power for the first time and kills someone. This 8-year-old kid's minds get invaded and taken control of, his body killing someone. This is actually not unfamiliar to how will works in the show, but it's very different. I'm going to return to this and to this scene later to glaze it more, because it's probably the only good thing about the finale. Now, we have to talk about something you actually probably didn't know existed. The stage play, Stranger Things The Foreshadow, that shows Henry's backstory. Now, the play is considered canon, but I don't know how much, considering there are deviances from the story, some things that just cannot be canon, and many other things. But I'm just going to take the narrative implications of this story. At first, let me actually show how the series told us these events. We are shown the haunting of the Creel family, and worse things are happening to them. We see how Henry is almost like creating the Mindflayer, forming his powers with the spider and the drawings. In the end, Henry attacks his family and he fades from using too much of his power, leaving only his father alive. The father is blamed for the murders, Brenner takes custody of Henry. This backstory is not false, but it leaves out one pretty important character. Who is she? She was the only one who actually treated Henry like a human and a friend who tried to help him. She is actually the adoptive sister of Bob from season 2.
Fatty? Adopted Fatty? Fatty, no parent?
And I don't think leaving out Patty from his backstory in the show was a random decision or a bad writing, but more important to the narrative. Let's get back on track and tell the story of the play. The Creel family moves from Nevada into Hawkins, and Henry starts to slowly torment his family and killing animals around the city. Every time we see him do this or any kind of evil action, there is an avatar of the Mindflayer. Now, this doesn't mean that the Mindflayer takes control of him during these events. It's just showing us that it brings them closer, it connects them on a deeper level. Think of this as some kind of fucked up family bonding event. This shows us that the knowing action of doing evil brings Henry and the Mindflayer closer. But also, at the same time, Henry meets Patty. She is the one who treats him like a human and a close friend. She even knows about his powers and the voices inside of him telling him to do these things. One time, she even asked him to help to find her actual mother, and he tries. It went south and he accidentally attacks her and her parents, but she still doesn't give up on him and tries to show him he can use his powers for good. While she is trying to show him he can be good, there is another character that he meets, Brenner. Brenner tracks down Henry from Nevada, where he was originally conducting his failed experiment. After that, Brenner gets a new government job. He is now doing the MK Ultra experiments. He finds Henry and convinces his parents to send him to his lab.
We discussed it, and he might be happiest at a place that... Mother, it's a very nice place. You'll have a real chance to be normal.
Where he is trying to fuel his passion, his desires, feeding into his evil emotions, so he can become stronger, even telling him about his fathers and the things he done, to bring them closer. Eventually he notices that he is trying to become good, and that Patty is changing him. This shoulder-angel dynamic comes to its finalization during a play Henry is doing with Patty, where Brenner confronts him, telling him to choose between his mentor, who helps him understand the things happening to him, and that he isn't broken, encouraging him, and Patty, who is trying to help him and show him he can be a good person, that he doesn't have to be the evil the people around him make him out to be. As this scene plays out, Henry is getting extremely stressed and overwhelmed between this choice, and it happens again. He loses the control. The Mindflayer fully takes the control over his body. It looks towards Patty and throws her off the stage, sending her to the hospital. Henry falls unconscious as Brenner takes him. After that he doesn't speak or see Patty. Only through his power he finds out she is alive, but couldn't dare to approach her again. And then it happens pretty much how it happened in the show. For the second time during his life, Henry wasn't the one making the choices over his life. After this, I would almost say these two are two different people. He fully gave into the power the Mindflayer provided him, embracing it, yet not fully embracing the Mindflayer, as he decided to stay vigilant against it. Now, I have recapped pretty much the entire play, even though I left out most of it, like the Mindflayer tormenting him, but I just wanted to mention the most important parts, as I don't know how canon the entire play is. After that happens, the experiment happens, the other children are made, Henry kills them, Eleven overpowers him, and sends him to the abyss. Now, Henry needs the other kids in the Mind Hive with him, so he can better realize the full potential of the Mindflayer. We see that this power strongly relies on emotion to manifest, but contrary to what many believe, I don't think this stems from love or hatred. Yes, Eleven overpowers Henry in the Rainbow Room, but she is much more riled up in this scene than Henry, and overpowers him. I just think that there is a distinction between their two states. This is purely symbolical and only done for the narrative and not a canon thing. Anyways, so he gets overpowered, sent into the abyss, connects with the Mindflayer. While it's not exactly stated what actually happens during the time of this and the show, we can probably theorize that he is planning something or creating the Upside Down. When the show actually started, the Duffer brothers didn't have Vecna in mind, so it's hard to fit him into the first season. This is where the VR games comes in to fix this plot hole. Well, yes, he probably awakened after 11 opened the Upside Down. The game actually shows us when this happened. He doesn't have full control over the Mind Hive.
Oh, Henry, your world. The Hivemind Central Command is fragile. 11 is finally here, and that has made you Emotional.
Get out!
It's a moment of distraction. You'll never return time.
I will find 11.
Then you must find these creatures and enter their minds to reclaim them. Reach into their minds. Their minds are still ours to control and corrupt. That's it. Corrupt them. Break them. Find the tears they've made into the deepest parts of your mind.
They broke from his control while he was asleep. This explains why in the beginning the Demogorgons seem more of an animal than a thinking being. After that, he regains control over the Mind Hive, and he also finds virus, because 11 tried to contact him in the Upside Down.
I feel her voice in our web. Take me to her.
We want more. We want to be free, Henry. To devour everything.
And you will. Through me. She is our gate.
She's coming for you. Just hold on a little longer.
Hello, 11.
Hurry. Will.
This boy is the key we've been waiting for.
I think this almost serves to show us that Henry is becoming almost like Brenner. Brenner found a kid who was in an unfortunate circumstances and exploited him, taking his innocence, pushing him further. Henry finds a kid who was at the wrong place at the wrong time and decides to use him. Henry was implanted with the soteria to control him and limit him like a tool. Henry gave Will the bug to control him so he could make the tunnels, also using him like a tool. We can go even further and say that Henry's plot to take the kids and use them closely resembles Brenner's MK Ultra trials and him using the kids so he could train them as weapons, to show us that Henry mirrors the evils in his life. Now, why does the Mindflayer want other kids? I think this can be easily answered when we analyze the powers that it actually gives him. To me, it seems that there are actually two ways you get the powers. One is simply being a conscious being who has been long enough a part of the Mind Hive. Second is being a gifted them from Henry, who was gifted them from the Mindflayer, and so he can now genetically pass them onto his children or just the children in the trials. But why doesn't the Mindflayer use these powers? Why don't we see it throw people around or just explode them? To explain this, I think we have to look at its design. No, not its shadow design, its other, much worse design. While I hate basically everything from the ending, the Duffer brothers heavily imply that yes, this is its actual body, but it shows that the Mindflayer is actually much closer anatomy-wise to the Demogorgon species than we thought. It seems that the apex of their species, the ruler of their kind, the cloud form, just appears to be one way it can manifest. But showing us that the Mindflayer is just another one of its species that inhabits this abyss. This also shows us that the Mindflayer is not probably as intelligent as humans, and it can't focus its power into manifesting. The reason it seems intelligent to Henry is just because that's how Henry's mind translates its command so he can understand it. The manipulation on the Mindflayer's part isn't an intentional thing it wanted to do. It's a reflex. When we want to talk, we don't intentionally think about how we position our mouth, throat, and tongue. We just do an unconscious action. The Mindflayer doesn't think of manipulating Henry as something it does intentionally. It simply wants to go to our realm, so it just does this. These aren't intentions, these are reflexes. Reflex at such a scale that is something so complicated to it, it just wants. Same as when lion wants to eat, they find prey, they prepare, and then they strike. It found us when we accidentally teleported there. It prepared by finding Henry, manipulating him into finding a way into our world, and when the rift eventually opens, it prepares to feast. That's how it thinks, how it works. That's its nature. It's just an animal that to us seems like a god, a higher being. It's a wolf, so giant, so different, so incomprehensible, it seems like an eldritch god to us. That's where I think the true horror stems from. Can you blame a wolf for killing and feasting on its corpse? Can you blame the Mindflayer for wanting to catch and eat? Are we just part of its food chains? Are we just part of a much larger life cycle of these beings that we can't see or comprehend? We are probably just one of many worlds that it is killed for it to feed. But how does it relate to Henry? Well, Henry was put into this without a choice. Unlike 11, he gave up on his life and gave up to embrace this state. He believed he could take the Mindflayer, to go above it, to control it and to be in control. After that, he sought more power and more to consume, not even knowing if it was his wants. Not knowing where the Mindflayer begins and where he ends, he talked of autonomy and choice, while the Mindflayer talked of connection and symbiotism. In the end, he is forced to confront the truth, to venture into his mind, to find a memory he doesn't fully remember. Even within his own mindscape, he is not in control. Henry believed he chose this. When Henry is reliving this memory, he talks as if he is the one in control. These were his choices. But did he choose the spiders, or did the Mindflayer influence him? We already know the Mindflayer looks like a spider. Did he choose that? How much of his choices were his own? He is forced to confront this, the evil he committed, the atrocities he caused. Did he ever thought, did he want this? He did these things, believing that he wanted it for himself. But in the end he sees the truth. He can no longer lie to himself. But he is too far gone for redemption. He tells how it never controlled him, no longer being able to see where they separate. He starts thinking of them as one being. Once he tried to fight it for power. Now he understands he is just another pawn in this game. He is something akin to a limb, just an extension of something much grander, much larger.
It needs me and I need it. We are one.
Fully accepting he is no longer Henry or anything, but just another part of something much greater, thus completing his arc. Can you tell this is the only part of the finale I like? Now, let me start talking some shit about the finale. I'm not gonna keep this long as there are many videos already shitting on it, and I don't think I can add anything more that wasn't said. There is just one main point, and that is why did they kill the Mindflayer? Now, I knew that they are going to kill Henry. They finished his arc, the power of friendship will kill Henry, the evil, but why did they kill the Mindflayer? Now if you're sitting there saying, but they didn't kill him, you saw the fog flying out of the kids when they freed them. Well, nuh-uh. The Duffer brothers said that it has been killed. Actually confirmed it, I don't know why, but they did. I don't know how to say it, but Cosmic Horror 101, don't kill it. I can talk about it, give more examples, but I don't think I can be bothered doing any more of this. I can even talk about the grandfather clock. You know, the sound so many people associate with Henry? Even in his Dead by Daylight crossover, it's shown within his perks and his powers that he has something doing with this clock. And now the question, is the play and the VR game canon? The play, it's not really canon? I don't know, lots of the parts about the play cannot be canon, but they went out to say that it is canon, so I don't know. As of the VR game, I don't see why it can be canon. It doesn't really change any of the story, it just gives background, and it fixes a lot of plot holes from seasons. Thanks for watching this. This was my first video. I don't think I'm going to make any more videos. You can subscribe if you want. This was also my first time writing and speaking like this in English. I don't know, it was pretty hard. If you have questions about this theory or some things you don't agree with, just comment them or contact me however you want. I'm open to talking. Thanks for watching and giving me time.